We find strength in stories told of those who dared, who faced the storm, who found their light when the night was warm. Reflections mirror, it shows us all the triumphs, the stumbles, the rise and fall. In every moment, in every test, we find the courage to be our best. In every step, in every fall, we find our way. We hear the call, curiosity and courage blend. In this reflection, we transcend. In every choice, in every quest, we find the joy, we find what's best. Reflection and action, hand in hand. In this reflection, we make our stand. With every breath, with every beat, we forge a path beneath our feet. Through curious eyes and open hearts, this journey of life where learning starts.
All right, what a beautiful song about reflection and taking action. All right, welcome everybody. Welcome back to our Saturday discussion. And as many of you have already know, it's Saturday. We are getting together to have our discussion based on the journey with the Certificate in Happiness Study program. And today I am thrilled to welcome Casey Johns as our special guest for today happiness study discussion. And as many of you has already know, Casey is a global nomad and a traveling happiness center. And he is on a profound journey across Central America and Oaxaca, Mexico. And his travels are driven by a deep quest for connection, for community and celebration, from attending a wellness retreat in Costa Rica to participating in the tribal gathering in Panama and exploring spiritual enclaves in Guatemala and Nicaragua. Casey experience had enriched his perspective on the power of curiosity and openness in his personal growth and happiness. And also as a transformation guide, lifestyle mentor, motivational writer, public speaker, Casey is deeply passionate about cultural immersion and self-discovery. His extensive background, which includes certificate in positive psychology, certification in happiness studies, and positive psychology coaching, along with the degree from Brown University. So Casey has a very unique combination of ancient wisdom and modern scientific insight in his teaching. And I am very excited to learn from Casey incredible journey and valuable lessons that he has gained along the way. So Casey, welcome. And please introduce yourself before we start our discussion today.
Okay, well, thank you, Ben, and thanks, Jasmine, also for creating this amazing platform to share the wonderful principles from Tull's happiness studies. And it's a great forum and venue to share our mutual interest in this. So yeah, it's for anyone who hasn't been on in the past couple of weeks, since I'm thrilled that Ben and Jasmine asked me to come back for the third consecutive week, because we've had some really nice dialogue going, and it's been a wonderful time, and I've enjoyed it myself very much to share the excitement. So I'm coming to the end of my first year of living nomadically, and by design, I'm kind of doing a slow mad, if you will, and traveling longer on my visa and that sort of thing. So as Ben mentioned, I've been to a couple of different places, and it's been a wide range of experiences that I feel, literally, I've said this to a bunch of people, I feel like I've lived 3 lifetimes in 1 calendar year. And that's amazing. It's just, I mean, my whole adult life, I worked too much. I worked 60, 65 hours a week for 40 years. And We'd take one Christmas vacation to go see my wife's family in Florida and a summer week to go see my family when we did, because we were often starting new businesses or trying to keep one going or starting a new job. And there were a lot of times, a lot of years, we never even had a vacation. Well, the beautiful thing was my son started traveling the world. And at one point in time, my now former partner, my ex-wife, Gail, got to go with Jesse to Vietnam, to several wonderful places. And I was jealous. Everybody else is getting all these great experiences, but I don't get them. And so when it came time to decide, we were developing a wellness retreat on a mountaintop, and it was starting to click. But it was just time for us. Our energies had started drifting apart. And anyway, as I've often said, if for anyone who's seen my the blog, the HSA blog that I wrote on spirituality and happiness, and I talked about my dark nights of the soul, where everything that I thought I was in life all just seemed to disintegrate at once, and I had to reinvent myself. So now, hey, I would say, I've often said this is about reinventing yourself in the second half of life. I think that's generous because I'm 60. So I'm in the last quarter of life. Statistically speaking, I feel like I've got a long run, but I didn't want to find out. I said, I'm not going to take another job. I'm not going to settle down. And I didn't have any burning desire to open a new restaurant or a new business of my own. I really just started feeling this call. I want to be part of the solution, not part of the problems in society. And I think that takes someone spreading the message of happiness. And so now, and basically, I've slightly twisted that since I wrote that for you, Ben, but now I say I'm celebrating connections, community, and co-creation, because I'm coming together with people in different communities. And so, for instance, here in Oaxaca, I got involved with the Oaxaca Learning Center, and I got to create a workshop for them. And I called it Create the Life You Dare to Imagine. And I had 12 scholarship recipients that came 2 weekends in a row on their time off, their day off. They came for 5 hours each, 10 hours total. And we ended it with a vision board of their best life. It was such an amazing experience. But anyway, let's get on to the rest. I'm just grateful to be here. Thank you. And let's have some more fun.
Yeah, and I think your journey is very, very inspiring. And I had that experience firsthand. I was born and raised in Vietnam. And in 2003, I decided to came over to the US to study and to live. And what a culture shock. I have learned so much, but there is so very, very interesting experience compared to my prior one. So I guess the first question that I would like to ask you is, what inspired you to embark on this journey across Central America specifically, and Oaxaca, Mexico, and how has your travel shaped your understanding of community and connection?
I would say right off the top of my head, Ben, it's pretty easy for me to answer this because my son was my teacher, and he started studying intentional communities and sustainability, and he has 3 degrees in different variations of sustainability in the built environment. How are we going to rebuild our cities? He has climate change, and he's in a PhD program in biodiversity. So the point is that he had traveled the world, and that got me excited again, and made me realize I'm a traveler. I really want to have these interactions. The studies with happiness studies, and it's not just, I would say, I have 5 main principles, and we'll answer that differently. But I will just say that when I talked to Tall first about creating our wellness retreat on this kind of remote mountaintop outside of Portland, Oregon, kind of a remote spot, and Tall asked me, he said, "Is that a sustainable business model?" And I said, "Tall, I don't need to get rich. I want to live a rich life." So that's in my head too. Now I'm thinking I want to live a rich life. So how do I make that happen? And so along those lines, then Tall started talking about how you know, he was talking about the blue zones. He's talking about things like, and then we're talking about also the annual happiness studies, and to find out more and more that people with less are as happy or happier than a lot of people that have a lot more. And in America, I was really upset with the divisive nature of politics. I was the victim as a small business middleman of local politics a couple of times. And it just started rubbing me the wrong way. I felt like I was a tool in the game, and I was having a hard time controlling my own destiny. Well, boo-hoo, you know, wham for KC. I've done okay, but it was just time. I just needed to reinvent myself. And I knew, just in my soul, I knew I had to get away from everything that I know and just leave everything behind. Kind of inspired a little bit by Ram Dass, the former Harvard psychologist who left and went to India. You know, he's one person among many that have inspired me. That you know, you can do this. Of course, all the nomads and remote working, I knew that I could figure out a way. When I need to make money, I'll figure it out. But I also knew I hadn't started my positive psychology coaching platform along the lines. I started, as I was reclaiming my health, I got into peak performance aging. So now I'm combining all those, but and living an adventurous life, and that informs my lifestyle mentor side, which is the adventurerich.com. But ultimately, it's like I've always been a person who loves to. I'm one of those people that agrees when somebody says, "Well, imagine if everybody in the world was just like me." Ooh, you know, the world would not be fun. I want to meet all the different people and all the different flavors, and the artists and the musicians and the teachers and the people that inspire, that work for their community and donate so much of their lives, not focused on making money, but on focused on making their community better and happier. And that excites me. And I'm just trying to meet as many of those people as I can.
That is beautiful, Casey, and I can hear a lot of reflection and taking action as we discussed from last week. You know, you have to combine the two, and you have to have that curiosity and openness. So I guess the next question that I have for you before we go to the discussion is that how have this journey helped you, how it influenced your personal growth and perspective on happiness?
Well, in 1,000 ways, but primarily, I'll start with this. You know, so the summer before I took off, so I took off in November of 2023, and so that summer before, I had taken an online course for 5 months. Every Saturday we get together for 3.5 hours, and it was called it was from GEN, G-E-N, it's Global Eco Village Network. So I was very interested in this concept of eco-spiritual communities that are growing their own foods and creating their own community outside of traditional current community models and traditional life in Western civilization. And I was fascinated by it. But I'll tell you, I've seen a few. I haven't seen them all. I realize that it's a very difficult thing. It's not hard to find people that are frustrated with society as it is, and they want to be out of it, and they want to go do their own thing, and they think, okay, I'm going to go hang out in the jungle, and life is going to be perfect. And it's a lot more complicated than that. So I've seen that. I've seen the beauty of it, and I've seen the challenges of it. And it's kind of informing me, you know, maybe Casey is more like, I'm going to find a community that has a spiritual element to it, but progressive science is involved too. And there are communities like that you don't necessarily have to put all your resources into it and you know, tie yourself up for 10 to 20 years, which I don't have a lot of 10 to 20 years left. So anyway, it's still something I'm developing as I go along. But what has informed me of the most, I'd say, Ben, is that I'm going to meet people that I like and even love no matter where I go. And whether they're in the community, whether they're in the healing community and they're yogis, or, high-end workshop people that are bringing this ancient wisdom and knowledge, whether it's at a tribal gathering. They're all beautiful, but I think some of my most amazing interactions have been with the volunteers that work at places like the Oaxaca Learning Center, or just the humble people I meet. I'm living out in a rural area, and these people have been wonderful to me. I stand out like a sore thumb. It's like, El Gringo is here. I'm the only white guy from the United States, and yet I've been treated so well. And what's been confirmed for me on my path is that everything we learn in happiness studies, that people that have community and are well fed and they're housed and clothed, but they have their community and they have a purpose and they have their families. Like, the family life here is really solid in Southern Mexico. It's not unusual to see a dad with his teenage son or daughter, and they're holding hands or arms around each other. You don't see that in the United States a lot, and it warms your heart. It's just a beautiful thing. So hopefully that was a
Absolutely.
good answer.
Yep. And I think that is the beauty of the world. When I first came over to the US, and I started to spend time with international students from all over the world. And that was the big question that we all asked. We all knew that we didn't have much back home in Vietnam or in South America or in South Africa, but we knew that we were happy. We didn't have a lot, but we were happy. And when we make our observation comparing to the lifestyle here in the US, where people has a lot of material, nice house, nice car, but they seem to be struggling. And we didn't understand why that was. And me personally, I didn't really understand it until I studied happiness and I studied the importance of going within, to cultivating spiritual well-being, physical well-being, intellectual well-being, relational well-being, and then you can have like a very good emotional well-being. And I also like how you mentioned ancient wisdom. We're gonna touch on that because I think it is extremely important to talk about when it's come to intellectual well-being. And with that, let's go to our discussion today on the second intellectual principle, I2. It stated that engaging in deep learning fulfills our potential as rational animal. And I have some slide, some PowerPoint to bring out some important point that I have learned from Dr. Tao Ben Shah lecture, but we don't have to limit with that information. I'm open to sharing anything. Feel free to speak your mind. Well, that's starting out. What do you think about the second intellectual principle?
I'm sorry, Ben, was that a question for me?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, great. No, that's all right. So, it's a perfect segue for me to go from the curiosity and the openness to new experience, which obviously they're the two spiritual principles, the two intellectual and the relational, that pertains to having a better relationship with yourself. Those are my 5 top principles from Tal's teachings. And so in this one, this speaks to my deep dive now into the new science of peak performance aging. And so I can happily share. So I spent, after I went to Cartagena for the HSA retreat last fall in November, I left there and ended up, and I did not have any plans. I just knew there were some places I wanted to go. And I ended up going to a Tantra yoga community on an island off of in Nicaragua. And I could say that, unfortunately, even though it was supposed to not be the rainy season, it rained 10 out of 12 days. I only had a backpack full of clothes, no way to dry them. The bugs were eating me alive. And I left there after 12 days. And I kind of felt bad, but I had been told, go there first. It's a beautiful property, beautiful experience. But what I learned in that experience, my deep learning there was, yeah, I don't want to live quite that primitive. And then I went from there to Pachamama in an eco spiritual wellness retreat in Costa Rica. And I signed up for a 2-month stay there, and I ended up extending it for 3. But so when it comes to the deep learning, so what I was doing was I did a work exchange with them, and I participated with the community on just to get an inside look at how this community worked. And they celebrated their 24th year while I was there. So it's a very well-established community with a wellness retreat that generates income for them. So in addition to that, so what happened there was, and this speaks to the peak performance aging. So I set 3 peak performance goals. So what is peak performance aging? Well, it's generating that neurogenesis and the epigenetics and neuroplasticity. It's learning new things as we age. So I put 3 things on my list, and I've spoken to you about this before. I may have mentioned it last week, but it's like I started playing the djembe, the African drum. And I wanted to play the djembe on stage in 2024. And I wanted to take my first yoga teacher training in 2024. And I wanted to become conversational in Spanish. Those are my 3 things. But in addition, I'm writing a book and creating so I'm going deep in a lot of areas, but I'm creating the content for my 2 platforms also. So I feel like I'm more engaged and more happily engaged in what I'm doing than I have been for years. And so I see myself, my potential being actualized. But a fun share is that on whatever it was, first week of February, I think it was like about the 7th, I finished my yoga teacher training. And that same night, I played djembe on stage with a group of real musicians who let me beat my djembe drum. But I'm a decent rhythm player, but I'm not an established player. But man, it was like that realization is like, wow, thinking back to where I was only 7 months prior, not knowing if we were selling our house yet, not knowing that my ex-wife and I were able to part with loving kindness, which I'm very grateful that we were able to. And anyway, I think you get the idea. This principle speaks to my soul, and it informs my journey.
That is very, very exciting. And man, you have a lot of certification. And I guess the experience of playing music on stage as a music festival, I guess that's amazing, because I've been to a couple, and live music is a whole nother experience. And you being on stage performing, I think that is word cannot describe how excited that is.
Well, it was so cool because they let me in. So we had this concert. There's a lot of talented musicians that are attracted to Pachamama, and so it's in kind of like an amphitheater setting where they have steps down and a bunch of chairs and people standing up, about 180, 200 people. And it turned out that this was the last song of the night. And instead of just having the original 5 of us who had only practiced this song really 2.5 times together. So 2 times with 4 of us and only 1 time with all 5 of us. And then they just decided to bring everybody up. So other musicians came up, a lot of we had a choir of about 12 people singing, and it was just magical. It was so fun. And to have my first experience is like, you think of your first time playing as a musician on stage, you think you're going to play in front of 4 or 5 people who are probably drunk. I don't know, but it was beautiful. It was a nice experience.
Awesome. And well, thanks for sharing, Casey. And for everyone, just want to make sure that you know that this is an open discussion. It is a Saturday discussion. And I am so thankful that Casey accepted my invitation to be our special guest. And he shared a lot of his wisdom and knowledge, but I want to hear from you too. So if there is a topic that comes up that you would like to deep learning, right? About, feel free to type it on the chat or raise your hand. This is an open discussion, and I think we are going to have an amazing one. So just quickly, I'm going to go over a couple of important points that I have learned from week 14, and then we can choose one of those to dive in deeper and learn more about it. So just stick into the journey. In 14.1, Tao talk about great work, and this is about the great books and work of art from all around the world that we should deep study in about, right? Instead of reading 20 books, maybe we should only read the top 3 books in that particular field of study or subject, and we will be able to learn a lot from them. So it's not about quantity, it's all about quality. And there are so many great work that we should deep dive in, like the Bible, for example, right? Like the Tao Te Ching from Lao Tzu and many, many others. All right. And then 14.2, Tao emphasized the importance of slow reading rather than fast reading, because there are messages that is so deep, it's had like many, many layer deep. So when you read it the first time, you might learn something amazing, but when you go back to reread it and understand it at an even deeper level, you will be amazed. And I personally had this experience with many, many books. I thought I understood it the first time. And then when I go back there, I'm like, oh, I didn't understand any of it the first time. There was way more, the water is way deep. So slow reading, extremely, extremely important. And then in 14.3, we learned about multiple intelligence. So instead of just looking at IQ, there's other type of intelligence like EQ, right? Emotional intelligence, for example. So all of that combined together. We also get to learn about George Orwell. And the key point of today's discussion is engaging in deep learning, because when you're engaging in deep learning, you will fulfill your or our potential as rational animal. We are rational, and when we engage in deep learning, we can cultivate and elevate our intellectual well-being in a whole nother level. And now, the question that I wanted to ask you, Casey, and again, this is a discussion, not a lecture, so feel free to share your thought, your perspective. We're not a researcher or a representation of these work, but I think it's important that we have questions, we ask questions, and we share our idea and theory. So the question that I have for you, Casey, is the relationship between intellectual well-being and spiritual well-being. And throughout all of the work that I have read, deep learning, reading from the great work, I have a theory. I have a theory that a regular intellectual well-being, like your IQ or your EQ, that is only on the surface. What defines intellectual well-being for me is wisdom, right? Because wisdom is different from just knowledge. Wisdom is something that you can carry with you, can help you better your life. So intellectual well-being to me is like wisdom. And earlier, when you speak of ancient wisdom, I feel like people don't understand what ancient wisdom is, and they give it a different name. They call it spiritual well-being. So that is how I feel about it. If we were to differentiate wisdom with ancient wisdom and combine the technique that Tao introduced, like deep learning, reflection, curiosity and openness, I think it is important that we discuss the topic of exploration, deep learning to the depth of knowledge, the depth of wisdom. So what do you think about that?
Well, how to keep this inside of 90 minutes, because I live in this realm and I'm learning every day. To me, the easiest way for me to explain it starts with, okay, I was at a point in my life where everything that I thought I was and everything I'd built up for the last 40 years just disintegrated before my eyes. So now it's time to reinvent. And if you're going to reinvent yourself, what is your path? And for me, it was to recover, regain my balance, and then reinvent myself through my strengths, values, passions, so that I could step into, find my purpose, step into a new path that would bring me redemption and for a happier ever after ending sort of thing. So how did I go on this? Well, I started it from Tal's first teachings, my first certification in positive psychology with Tal, which was 2014, 2015. I did deep dives into Eastern religions. And so Eastern philosophies, I wish I had not used that word religions, because definitely there is a lot of these philosophies that have, like Taoism is a philosophy and it's also a religion. I am a student cultivator of the philosophy of Taoism, as well as karma yoga practice. But how does that show up in my day-to-day existence? And how does that guide me? And I would also say a couple other criteria for me was reading things like I was saying, I don't fit in this, crazy rat race society. And so how do I extricate myself from that? And so Einstein saying, there's no problem that's ever been solved with the same mindset that created it. You need a new mindset. So I had to create a new mindset. Rumi saying, yesterday I thought I knew, therefore, so I wanted to change the world. And today I'm wiser and I'm going to change myself. And that's what I realized. I was a middle manager in a small, solopreneur, had several businesses. And, I was good at telling other people how to do things without reflecting enough on how I was doing me. And so I took a deep dive into the me search of happiness studies, and that informed me and ended up flipping my focus on physical, intellectual relation, jumped up spiritual. It just kind of happened in an almost overnight scenario where I realized, wow, I love everything about Paul's teachings and I love the SPIRE model, but I'm going to be led by the spiritual element. So the Tao Te Ching, as an example, you just mentioned it. So the Tao Te Ching is one of 3 books that I've read in my life, back to back to back, cover to cover. And I was inspired by how Tal talked about how he read books. And anybody who hasn't heard Tal say this, and Tal is undeniably one of the most well-rounded, well-read teachers I've ever been around or influenced and inspired by. And so he says, get an idea, from the index and from reading the first of the chapter, the last of the chapter, things like that, to get an idea of where the author is going. And then read the book once without taking notes. And then read the book again, slowly taking notes. And then teach it to someone else. And that's how you do deep learning. And that speaks to intellectual principle too. And so thusly, I am a Tao cultivator. And I've only read 2 books on the Tao, but it's part of it. I start every day with what I call, Ben, you and I have talked about this, and I've mentioned the perennial philosophy, which has been introduced by many people, but Aldous Huxley wrote a book on it in like probably the late 40s, early 50s, about the perennial philosophy. And he was taking the common threads and the main themes from several different philosophies and tying them all together. And which is kind of like the now controversial, but theosophy was a great at the start, and then ended up being controversial. It was started in I want to say the 1600s, maybe the 1700s. So in the morning when I do a water blessing, and I speak to my water, and I know that the water is a living organism that is spiritual. And what's his name? The Japanese doctor. It's cymatics is the study. But And there are people that say these studies can't be reproduced, but what he found out is that the molecules in water respond to positivity. Focus on the good appreciates, as Tal says. And so every morning though, and I do it, I'll use the term religiously. It's part of my morning rituals, but I talk about Lao Tzu's 4 cardinal principles, and that's reverence for all living beings, showing up authentically, showing up with gentleness and kindness, and service to all. That and then the 4 agreements, anybody who knows that from Toltec, from Don Miguel Ruiz, Toltec, Ancient Wisdom. And I'm getting into more and more of these types of thinking. And, you know, I always think of 3 things from the Eightfold Enlightenment way: right thought, right speech, right action. That every day I remind myself of that. And so I've kind of like taken the best and it's not that I forget the rest as much as I just focus on what I can do in snippets and build and use that as my new platform to grow from. So that's how I let Ancient Wisdom, and I feel like I just tapped the surface of Ancient Wisdom. The Hermetic Principles, for one, which Bruce Lipton, anybody who hasn't heard of Bruce Lipton, brilliant cellular biologist from University of Wisconsin and Stanford, and he's big into epigenetics, wrote a book called The Biology of Belief. And I'm really influenced a lot by his thinking. But so I love the modern Western people that can explain ancient wisdom and Eastern philosophies in layman's term for the modern Western thinker like myself. So hopefully that's a pretty detailed but not too deep answer, Ben.
Oh no, it is great, and I'm glad that I have you as a special guest today to discuss, wisdom, ancient wisdom, and intellectual well-being as a whole. Because I don't know if anybody else has ever asked this question, but for me, I was like, why intellectual well-being, right? Because I can see some people who are not very intellect, but they are very happy. But at the same time, I see the need of learning, the need of cultivating intellectual well-being. And the more that I look into it, there is a huge connection between intellectual well-being and spiritual well-being, namely wisdom and ancient wisdom. So I think you make a great connection between those teaching with deep learning, and you saying it yourself too. You are still exploring it, and I love how Tao put it. Of how we are all fellow journey, we are go on a journey to happiness. And to me, I believe that the summit of happiness, the ultimate end, is this cultivation of intellectual well-being, this cultivation of ancient wisdom. Because for my personal experience, there is a calling for me to learn more about, like, let's say, why am I here? How does the universe work? And I feel like there is so much more than just survival and replication. There's just a desire to know, the desire to learn. And I see similar interests with some friends, some mentors, some teacher that I have the pleasure to met a long way in my life, where they have already achieved financial freedom, but they still feel like there is something missing. They can do anything they wanted in this life with the financial freedom support that they have, but they just feel empty somewhat. And once they find the meaning of life, they started to explore on their intellectual well-being journey, and they start being very spiritual, and I think that is wonderful. And there are more talk that need to happen. There should be more conscious conversation about this, because people who at the very, very top, who had achieved all of the success that an average person like myself are going after, even them are going after intellectual well-being and spiritual well-being. So what's your thought on that, Casey?
Yeah, Ben. So it's, gosh, the thing that I think of, I again, quotes, I love inspirational quotes. So going back to Einstein, it's like you have a choice. There's two ways to go through life, where nothing is a miracle or where everything is a miracle. And when everything is a miracle, you don't have to get into the science behind it. You could just be in awe of the aesthetic of nature and beautiful flowers. But it's also cool to go another layer and understand how, like just the thought of forest bathing as a for instance. So that's something we did at our property. And you can walk around in the forest where the trees are giving you oxygen and we, the humans, are giving them carbon dioxide. And there's this exchange, and it reminds you that you're in this beautiful organism. And that's very spiritual. It's also scientific at the same time. And so there's things like that. Well, I'll leave that for now. And if I think of something else to add, I just love to have those, it's unexpected to get the deep things. Like when you think of Einstein, you don't think of those things typically unless you've really studied him. Not that I have. All these things were brought to my attention by Tal Ben-Shahar. So, but I'm grateful because they have informed my journey.
Yes, Casey. And the reason that I am focusing on the topic of intellectual well-being is because I see I would even call it a problem of a Western lifestyle of how we are stepping away from the intellectual well-being journey, the spiritual well-being journey. We are focused too much on material thing. We're focusing on the next career, the next success, or even like the next football game, for example, if you live here in the US. And because of that, I feel like people are less happy and even get depressed when they focus too much on material things. And in happiness study, how introduce the Eastern point of view beautifully into the teaching, and it's give that really, really nice balance. Is kind of take people back to that journey of knowing yourself better, knowing your inner self, and explore the possibility and not just the next material success. Yes, Casey.
Yeah, it's been perfect. It's so on the spiritual side, you learn that everything that's manifested in the three-dimensional world comes from energy of the universe. That's spiritual. And that we're all creators and we all have our own inner genius. These are things that even Tal teaches. So and so tapping into the different intelligences, like Gardner's studies, but it's such an amazing launching point. And that's why I changed my little tagline there to include co-creation. So and I've mentioned that to you in our talk before. That I feel like I'm co-creating with Source and my higher self, but also on the vertical plane with the people that I'm surrounding myself and meeting, and we get involved in different projects together, and it's fun and fascinating and engaging, and it satisfies my curiosity on my intellectual side. It satisfies my purpose on my spiritual side. So they're very, Tal was brilliant in how he designed this. It's just all beautiful, and the upward spiral is a real thing, and I've noticed it in my own life, and it's been beautiful to embody it and take it from, as his challenge is, how do we take it from the hallowed halls, the ivory halls of academia to Main Street, and from research to me search. And that's how I like to view myself as, and I joked about this with you before, I may not be Tal's best academic student, but I'm one of his most embodied students. So I'll take that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I appreciate you for that. And you know what, Tal is very good at his indirect approach and even even like say it out loud in the program, happiness, you're gonna do the indirect approach, the indirect way. And I think he is the master at it. Because from my experience, I understand, I get what he was doing, but at the same time, I didn't think much of it until the end of the program and everything kind of come together. And I'm like, oh, he not just talk about this, he is talking about something greater, like really happiness as whole being as the very core of it. And like, he's not just saying it, there's something much grander. And well, I see Jilling has been raising her hand. Let me go ahead and go to Jilling for her question or sharing. Feel free to unmute yourself, Jilling.
Excuse me, I'm coughing, so I will talk later. I'm coughing everywhere.
Okay, no worries.
All right, well, I have a quick add then, Ben. So Tall, here's Tall embodying his own teachings. And it's spiritual, it's the mindfulness part. I don't know that I've ever met a human being with the mindful presence that Tal Ben-Shahar has. So in Cartagena, I think we had about 90 people. There's probably 100 with all the support staff and everything there. There's about 100 people, but Tal could consistently just drop into a moment. Like I walk up onto stage to get my certification. Granted, it was from 2020, whatever, but that was the first time I was at the retreat where I could pick it up. And he knew what I had been through. He knew that we had to sell our dream property, that sort of thing. And he just looked at me and he smiled as I walked through and he said, "Welcome to the other side." And it was just so meaningful to me. But to watch him, he gets right in and he knows what different projects different people are working on and how they're sharing their happiness in their own communities, and whether they're writing a book or whether they're coaching or teaching, how they're involved in their communities. It is amazing to me. And that is an example of spirituality.
Yes, definitely has a very, very special presence. So I first saw him on an online course on psychology of leadership, and I thought he was very inspiring. He was a deep thinker, and I was very impressed. And the next time that I see him was one of the video introducing happiness study, and I couldn't even recognize him because his energy has shifted to a very balanced, a very calming energy. It wasn't because in the past, when he teach psychology leadership, I can feel this weight on his shoulder of sharing the knowledge to the next generation of leaders of the world from Harvard. And I feel the shift, and I couldn't even recognize him at that time until later that I like, oh, this must be the same professor that I like so much 14, 15 years ago. But you don't really know Tao until you meet him in person. And if you never have a chance to go to the retreat, see Tao in person, and of course Tao doesn't like to talk much about him. But when I was in the New Jersey retreat and I observed Tao, it was very, very different. It's kind of hard to explain. Like he had this presence, as Casey mentioned, and there is like an energy around him that I feel a little bit heavy when I get closer. It's strange, like it's calming, but at the same time, like somehow I feel like he is larger than life, and he willing to have a conversation with you. And I did have a short conversation with Talbot as he's sharing his knowledge. He's sharing about the journey that we are going on right now. I just have the absolute calming feeling and respect to a true teacher, a true mentor, and there are just so much loving and care, and his attention to detail, and give 100% of his attention to the person that he is talking to, because there was multiple people wanted to talk to Tao, but he was able to do all of that. And I have to be honest with you, there are moments that I can only just sit there, observe and admire his presence. I couldn't even walk up to him and talk to him at certain moment. And I don't know why. And I guess you can only explain it with spiritual well-being and energy, I guess.
Exactly. Is Cheelin ready to come back in?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Come on.
Can you
in.
hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we do.
It does. Yeah, thank you, Casey, and thank you, Ben. Great. It's great that because I hear you mention how you know Tao. It's from the internet, right, Ben? Uh, yeah,
Yes.
and same as I do. I watched the video he taught in Harvard. As I think it's for happiness, and that's how he brings me to like gradually understand about like there is a level of our happiness. There's average stuff. It's later on if I can raise that average. That is a way of gradually cultivating my happiness. And there and it, with his video, it also leads me to take the course in mindfulness, and I become a mindfulness teacher is because he start the journey. Yeah. So when you mention that part, it just reminds me that oh, actually, my later on training on mindfulness, and I do a lot of mindfulness practice. Or the initial part is actually from his sharing and what he's talking, and later on with the course he has started, and I did miss part of it, so I didn't know until later on, so I joined the course in 2023 in certificate. Yeah. And what Casey just mentioned about, and you have also shared about the intellectual well-being and also the emotional well-being being connected. And we we also talk about like the Eastern or Western philosophies. There are some differences, and it's interesting because it's kind of like a flu for people who are so interested in Western philosophy. And for me, I'm living in the country or the area that is existing with that kind of living philosophy. And I do notice not until like late 10 years, I start appreciate this. Actually, in the early day, we do like think the Western ways are great because most of our system are how to say not immigrate, but it's copy from the Western from states. So though we think that those are great stuff. Um, and for my understanding at the moment, or for my understanding from my living is, um, it seems like the Western and the Eastern side are have something good. So we're from this exchange, or we have the internet or everything like this. We got the chance to use um, how to say that, the Western part. I see the science and I see the way of debating, and you can there's a lot of like subject and object way to view the things. Those are things that are valuable. And in Eastern way, we could be another part of the process is thinking those difficulties or uncomfortable or suffering is part of the life. So that could be a little bit different. And so I think these two are, with these two emerging, it's the best part because in Eastern family, we you will see a lot of suffering with people that are in the family and was struggling with domestic violence. Even though we have living in the Eastern philosophy, so I think there's a word that like it just reflect to me with all your sharing is about the balance. It seems like no matter which side, it's like it's not east and or west. It's more like the territory or the area that I do familiar with, and also the area or the domain that I'm not familiar with. So it's not like a eastern or western right now for me. And I do enjoy this journey for being on the awareness of viewing myself how to do the balance, no matter in which kind of domain, in intellectual, in spiritual, in emotional. So it's like even in the spire system, is still for me is like understanding and learn how to be in balance with it. So thank you very much for the sharing.
Thanks, Shirley. And I like how you often mention balance. And I think that is the key word to happiness, to cultivate intellectual well-being, spiritual well-being, and then everything else. And I'm glad that in happiness studies we have the SPIRE model, and we get to talk about spiritual well-being first. We learn about mindfulness, we learn about yoga, and to me, that is the key to access ancient knowledge. If I were to switch out the word spiritual well-being with ancient knowledge, because I really, really believe that, when we learn about happiness study in the MA program, we got to learn about the ancient philosopher like Socrates, Plato, and I guess the Buddha is one of the philosophers referred to, even Lao Tzu and Confucius. All of them are a great thinker, a great philosopher. And when we learn about them, Plato said that everything that we are learning, it is not new. We have already know about it. We are just relearning. We're just remembering what we have already know. And me personally, I do believe that. I do believe that we are on a journey to connect ourselves to source, to knowledge, and successful scientists like Nikola Tesla or Albert Einstein, somehow they were able to connect to this knowledge. And it might appear to us that they come up with the invention, but I dare to ask you to consider the possibility that they did not inventing anything new. They simply remembering the wisdom, the ancient wisdom of the past. And don't get the word confused, okay? When I say ancient wisdom, it does not mean that old wisdom, because the ancient world it can be way more advanced than what we are seeing today. We just don't know how it was. But the fact is that the pyramid was built. We don't even understand how it was built, how precise it was, and why did they build it. There are some recent study comes out that the pyramid was a structure that can generate electricity. So imagine wireless item or wireless phone or whatever. You don't even need to charge it because it can charge to the air, for example. So some might say that that technology existed, and Nikola Tesla were developing those technology years and years ago. It just we don't have that yet. So when I'm speaking of ancient wisdom, by no means I'm not saying that it is old. By no means that it is not applicable to what we have today. When I'm speaking of ancient wisdom, I'm speaking at the core wisdom, the core information, and I feel like we as human has the desire to remember, the desire to go back and reconnect to that information, to that potential. And that is what I like. I love the intellectual well-being principle so much the eye to engaging in deep learning fulfills our potential as rational animal. So the key word is deep learning. Why do we have to deep learning, right? What if the knowledge is buried so deep, the connection was buried so deep that we have got to do the deep learning? We should not just looking at it at the surface level. We have to be balanced. We have to be mindful, and we dive deep into the teaching, and we will be able to build that neuroplasticity, that connection. And that is precisely what I wanted to talk to Casey about, and this is why he is keep coming back to this discussion for the third time, and of course for the fourth time next week, so we can have closure on these discussions. So Casey, what do you think? I can see you nodding your head and have like a lot of facial expression.
Yeah. I'm going down some deep, dark, not dark. But I'm going down a lot of rabbit holes of ancient mystery schools, and it's what a lot of people would say is folklore, mythology, and yet I heard today somebody use the term ancient science on a YouTube video I was watching, and I love that because again, this is something else I've mentioned with you before, Ben. It's like I'm going to have the conversation with Tal someday that yes, I love science. Science is wonderful, but it's not the leading indicator. It's a lagging indicator. It's not discovering something new. It's recovering or uncovering ancient wisdom, ancient science that's always been there. We're just beginning to understand really how the energy of the universe works and how it manifests. I'm just careful on how I'm dancing around this because I'm in some interesting thought schools right now that just have different philosophies and different things, but these concepts came from somewhere. And so a lot of people would poo-poo the Hermetic principles, and yet in 22-minute video, Bruce Lipton proved each one of the 7 Hermetic principles using the principles of quantum physics. So it's sound, it's energy, it's light, and it's beautiful. That's why I believe in manifesting from nothingness, but it's not nothingness, it's everythingness. And so I still learning to get comfortable talking in this realm about it. But so for instance, I'm going to Joe Dispenza. I remember that 5 years ago, somebody asked Tal about Joe Dispenza's teachings. Now, Joe Dispenza is a guy who, for people that don't know, I mean, I don't know that there's actual proof, but I think like the late 80s, he was a triathlete, and he got hit by a car while he was out cycling and broke 5 vertebrae in his back. And he was told that he was never going to walk again. He was told that if he could even walk, he wasn't ever going to cycle again. And in 10 weeks, he was walking again. So, you know, it's amazing. So anyway, it really gets to the point of what he said that really stands out to me as why I'm a little shy about talking about certain things, because he says, you know, if you mention religion or spirituality, you can divide a room almost instantaneously. If you're in a room with like-hearted, like-minded thinkers, great, you're good. But now, and I can remember when Tal literally said there's not enough science behind it yet. Well, now 5 years later, he's done over 80,000 different EKGs and beyond. I'm trying to think of the right terms for the brain analysis for brain wave during different types of meditation, things like that. And he has proven a lot of things, including heart coherence with a group, that you can affect somebody's healing by having a group of 4 to 8 people around you, like basically praying for you in all practicality. They're thinking healing thoughts for you, and it positively, there's an energy happening. The heart radiates X amount of electrical energy, and somehow these energies are exchanging. I can't explain it all yet, but I will tell you, I just booked to go there for a week in Orlando in the 3rd week of October. So I'm going to be in Florida. It's one of these things, when you get out into the woo land with me, Ben, it's like, how did this just happen that I'm interested in going to see him? And when I'm done helping my son open his business, lo and behold, on my way to see Meg Nacero in Miami, there happens to be a Joe Dispenza retreat for a week in Orlando. It just lined up. The universe is conspiring on my behalf to help me self-actualize. And how can I prove that? I can't. It's just happening.
Well, I believe that when you look for it, you will be able to see it, but if you don't look for it, then it might be right in front of your face, but it's still invisible to you. So I think you have like a high vibrational energy, and you started to pick up on these and attracting these to your life, and that is wonderful. On that note, I see Long has been raising his hand for a while.
Yes.
I would like to go to Long very quickly. Feel free to share, Long.
Okay. Hi guys. So I'm a friend of Ben. I encountered Ben like a year ago, and Ben is actually the one who introduced me to this course of happiness study by Dr. Tao Ben Sao. And although that I'm in the 2nd cohort right now, basically I haven't finished the program yet, but I have a background of more than 10 years pursuing these wisdom knowledge through the tradition of the Buddhist studies. And also I am so fortunate to be exposed to all the facts and evidence that KCJ, I don't know your actual name, so I'm just going to refer to you as a KC. So just now hearing Casey sharing, I feel I have a wave of goosebumps, because it's so hard to find someone like across the globe who share the same mindset and intellectual. And I'm just going there's a huge urge within me to share and interact with Casey and bring this and expanding this discussion if possible, to share insights and even learning from that. So basically, a few months ago, I came across the Hermetic principles, which is very rare in Vietnam. Hardly anyone look into that, and I felt a strong connection towards the history of Egypt and the methodology, like you said, and I especially have a huge. I really looked up to Thoth as a being of wisdoms and also of his contribution to the humankind and Egyptian back then. So these topics are huge. I believe that we can talk for hours, but within the scopes of the discussion that we are talking about regarding intellectual and spiritual, for the sake of increasing happiness, I just want to share that one of the things that I have been realizing, and I have a huge moment of realization during the time that I read about the 7 principles of the Hermetics, is the law of resonance. The law of resonance explains so many things. Before that, I learned from Dr. Greg Braden. He's also a physicist, very famous and well known. What was that what metaphysics? No, not metaphysics. Quantum physics. Yes, and he actually researched and studied a lot of experiments regarding this and to prove the fact about the ancient wisdoms. And so the law of resonance state that, oh, the bright on the omen, yeah, I do that during my practice as well. So basically, like the key to like even before having the chance to meet any teachers, like great teachers like Casey going to like planning to see, it is important to raise our vibration like daily, like within, not just daily. I mean like until now I believe that it need to be hourly. So basically you have to be mindful about your vibration, about your thoughts, your mind, because according to the experiments regarding the heart and the brain electromagnetism field. So every emotions or thoughts will send out a wave of electro and magnetism field, like literally every second of your life. And being mindful about your mind and your thoughts and your emotion will actually contribute to the controlling of these energy field, interacting with the people in the environment around you, and also taking a step further, because like if you want to be healthy, you need to go to the gym and you practice. Like everything require practice. So same as the vibrational and energy sort of thing. Like you need to practice to actively and mindfully and controlling the energy field, and you will reach to a certain stage or certain moment that your vibration actually vibrate not at the same normal vibration field of the collective mass, but rather than vibrate at a higher and stronger frequencies, just like Casey mentioned. I believe you feel, you have seen that, because I can feel that from your speech. So basically, when you reach to that, like there are some famous people around the world talking around the field, the akashic field, and that sort of things. You start connecting yourself to that field of energy, that field of data and information, and draw information towards you, towards your to your self levels as well. And how that refers to Buddhist teachings. So saying that, not I'm a pure Buddhist, so I do mindfulness meditation, samadhi meditation. I have done that for the past 10 years, and I use sound meditation a lot, using Om, like just now Casey mentioned. And because of that, I am so eager and interested in the vibration, the sound vibration, and how that contribute and shape your and boost the effectiveness of your meditation sessions, and also has the results of connecting, like days through day, you connect higher and higher to your higher self, or to the collective mass, and that sort of things. So people who have been committed to this path, like they have a lot of realization, like through times, and sometimes they come across books and people and author. But it is important to practice every day, because right now the collective energy is very low due to a lot of disaster, catastrophe around the world, all the deaths and all the crisis around the world. So it is important to maintain the practice and to maintain your level of vibration. And I have been doing that. So I have the chance to see and be with you guys and to talk to Casey. But I have been knowing Ben for a year, but he never introduced me to you, Casey. Yeah, so today I got the chance to meet you, and maybe in the future we can like further expand these topics. And what interested me most is how we can apply these knowledge, the wisdoms, to the current stage of the world right now, to the modern society through classes. But how? What would we teach them? I believe the key to unlock everything is practice. But we need to make the practice easy and approachable for everyone. And that is my biggest interest right now, and in my work, in my life, and what I am embracing right now at the moment too. So I know I've been sharing talk a lot, but I feel the eager and enthusiastic to share and to speak up and to interact with with all of you guys, and especially Casey. Yeah, and thanks for hearing me out. Yeah.
Mhm. Thank you, Long. I posted for everyone in, since we were talking about frequencies, and I don't know that this is the best article. I just happened to type it in quick. I wanted to focus on Long, but also get, for anyone who hasn't heard of solfeggio frequencies, and there are these natural frequencies, and there's even a sequence, Ben, that syncs with Tesla's 369. There's like several different frequencies within the 9 solfeggio frequencies, but there's people that put this out and they align the 7 key ones align with the chakras, and they have different forms of healing and manifestation implications. Activation might be the word, but I don't do it every night, but many nights, I'll put it on a low level and I'll go to sleep with this thing on for hours, and I just wake up feeling better. It's a beautiful sound, energy, music, the resonance, like you said, Long. It's just I don't know when I kind of know when it got untapped in me, but over the last 4 years. But that's what got me into the drumming with the djembe and whatnot. And it's just like I just have this appreciation for it. Just like I love chanting now. Like I didn't know that I would be interested in chanting, but it's beautiful, and drum circles and that sort of thing. But
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. You. That slipped my mind. I'm sorry. I just wanted to stress the importance of chanting and repeating the mantra. It's so important. Why? Because if you are listening to a piece of music, or like meditation music, or even like the chanting of the Om and that sort of primordial source of energy, but you are inactively letting this vibration entering your body, which, if you know the law of physics, if the vibration doesn't match the frequencies, then it would not connect and flow data, information, and energy. So the key to break this stuck is to actively repeat, like Casey said, chant through chanting or to reciting the mantra. You will hence mightily create the same sort of vibration that match the vibration of these huge primordial source of energy in the universe, and that leads to the result that you have a better and more effective meditation sessions. So yeah, Casey, I'm sharing that path with you, because actually I am practicing it right now, and I can see the huge impact on my spiritual practice. Like maybe 10 years ago, I would not imagine like a young people who been trained through the Western culture. I've been studying in the UK and Singapore, and then I went back to Vietnam. I wouldn't believe that seeing myself like sitting very respectfully and chanting the Bibles or the sutras, or these repeat the mantra, but it actually help like boost your spiritual practice, and through that you will, for example, I know we all busy people in the world right now, so let's just say you can only contribute 2 hours of your day towards spiritual practice, but now you have a tool to maximize the benefit of those 2 hours. Then you would use that to boost your successness, your success, and also is the best tool to tune in and realign your energy, your chakras, your everything after a long day going out, interacting with a lower frequencies energy at the moment. So I just want to stress practices important. The law of resonance state that like we need to tune in, align themselves with the right frequencies and energy to receive, to interact, to connect to these energy. So practice is important, and not just daily but hourly, and you will see the benefit after like sometimes doing so. And I am the person who been through that, so I am an evidence, a strong evidence of that. Yeah. I just want to expand what I wanted to say so much, but it slipped my mind. Thank you, Casey, for hearing me out.
Thank you.
Well, we will definitely continue this conversation next week. Long, I'm glad that you are here. I have not seen Long for a while. And Casey, Long is actually one of my spiritual teacher, and he showed me a lot of knowledge. I have gained great insight to his teaching. And Long has been operating and running a retreat center in Vietnam for many years. He is definitely an expert in the field. And Long, when I first met Casey a couple of months ago, I was like, I gotta introduce you guys. It's just I still learning about Casey. You know, as you can see, I'm still interviewing him, figured out like what this guy is about, what are his like experience and knowledge, and he seemed to be a very rich and well put together guy. And here we are. So I'm glad that you was able to join us today, and we definitely continuing this conversation. So
Well,
before we go to Victoria, let's go ahead and hear from Casey and maybe Long a little bit.
yeah, I was going to say, let's get Victoria in, but I want to sort of finish this with Long. Long, it looks like 2026, I'll be in Southeast Asia. If you're in Vietnam, we'll stay in contact, and I would love to come and learn with you. So that would be beautiful.
Absolutely. So I would meet. I would love to meet you guys in person. And so as Ben just mentioned, basically I have a brand for that. I have my family own a retreat center in a remote area, quite has the ideal requirement to be a place to meet up for these deep learning and meaningful conversation, and also session practice. But from now until then, I am happy to connect with you, Casey, if we want to further these discussions along the way. And then let's see what we can do, like even right now, before getting then. Yeah, maybe like through the interaction that we might come up with something that can help Ben to carry out his mission right now. His endeavor, his a very pure purpose in life right now that I want to aid and assist. Yeah, so I am happy to connect with you all. Yeah.
All right, beautiful.
Yeah, I love Victoria had posted something earlier today on the HSA chat, and I'd love to hear from her.
Yes, let's give Victoria some moment, and that will give you guys some time to exchange, contact, and we'll definitely continue in this conversation next week. Thank you so much, everyone.
I posted my number, WhatsApp or Telegram on in the chat.
Yep, I see that. And all right, Victoria, let's get to you real quick.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Long, and everyone. And I'm so happy to join you guys. I had some trouble to join in today due to my phone was stuck because of overuse. So the thing is, I will be very short because I know that we have a limited time. So just give me 2 or 3 minutes to just to say my deep thank you, especially to Ben, Jasmine Wang, for such a holding such continual workshop weekly, and not only in Vietnamese but in English, in inviting so many special guests with so many insightful advice to share with us, such as Casey, and now I'm so happy to meet Long Nguyen as well. So I just would like to contribute because of some time. So I hope that there will be discussion like this every day, every moment, so that everyone from all over the world can join us and contribute some insight or some piece of advice, or if even very humble experience like me, so that we can deepen our understanding and experience of happiness, but also to to help to kindle the inner light of curiosity, so that we can increase our interest in deep learning in our journey to happiness. So that's in this spirit. So I will repay Tan's kindness by giving a series of workshop, 8 weeks only for now, because of I don't know how long I can commit to due to other busy schedule. But I just would like to invite you guys to come and join us, and of course for your great advice and guidance, so that we can take turn to roll up the bones, so that we can I feel that we need to turn on the light all the time, kindle the candle everywhere at any time whenever we are able and available, so that people can come in and connect and give their wonderful piece of advice and experience. So that is my humble contribution and very limited knowledge, but I hope that you guys will come and support and share and build up, and then many other people will take initiative, same as Ben, so that we can support the community and enlarge the community, and especially to spread happiness and positivity over the world. Because I feel this kind of activity is wonderful. It helped to transform my life. It helped to transform me from a very shy, nervous, timid person into someone who is able to voice up, to contribute, and to overcome my fears of public speaking. So I hope that you guys, many of you here, have so many things to say, but we need to overcome our obstacle of like shyness due to our nature, fear to failure. So we allow ourselves to be human, to accept our weakness, our vulnerability, and overcome our fears, so that we can let out some light, inner light of happiness, just like Casey and Long Nguyen say, that to connect to the higher energy, the pure cell, the pure energy, vibration, higher vibration, so to lift up everyone, because daily life is so troubled. It's a lot of difficulty, a lot of suffering nowadays in the world. So people need this light, inner light. So we need to help ourselves and others. So that is what I'm about around here. So I thank you so much for Ben and Jasmine and for everyone. And I hope you guys will spend some time to attend my workshop and contribute, and let me know if you would like to share in the special topic, so that I assign, and then we can open up the discussion and invite more people to join. And so thank you very much. I hope to learn more about this in the next session, and we need to keep up all over again this kind of discussion. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Victoria. And I can feel the vibrational energy into your day room is extremely high. And thank you so much for that. And
Wait,
you know,
Ben, did she say that she was timid? She overcame
Yeah.
her timidness.
in the
That was
past,
beautiful share, Victoria. It was
I
beautiful.
was, and I am now. I'm still very shy. I'm still very nervous, but somehow Ben and all the people here helped me to overcome my shyness and open up my mouth. It was not easy, but it's possible. So this how I would like to use my example as something to encourage all the shy, reserved, timid people to speak up, to voice your voice of beauty, of happiness, of positivity, and that is so much needed in the world today. Yes.
wonderful. And thank you so much for joining us today, Victoria. Thank you, Casey, for being our special guest today. And what a pleasant surprise that Long had joined us today. And Casey, definitely connect with Long. And I feel like you guys will be such a wonderful pair for a podcast, potential podcast, so that we can spread this information, this knowledge. And I'll be more than happy to be a student to support you from the back, all this technical Zoom support. And I think together we can spread the information, the goodness, just like what Victoria said. And I am feeling so blessed that I have you guys as our fellow journeyer. And with that, I would like to play a song as we leaving this Zoom, and we're definitely continuing this conversation next week on our weekly Saturday discussion. And the song that I would like to share with you is called Path of Balance. And I do believe that the path that we are walking right here, right now, is the path of balance. Because being balanced is not being at zero. Being balanced is where your vibrational energy is extremely high, where you can connect to different dimension and learn different wisdom, ancient wisdom it is. So thank you so much once again, and see you next week.
In a quiet place near Varanassi's light, a wise teacher spoke deep into the night. He told the monks of balance and the way to find true peace every single day. Seek the middle, not too high, not too low. Find your center, let your spirit glow. In the stillness, feel the gentle breeze. Close your eyes, let your worries ease. Life's a journey, not a rushing race. Feel the heartbeat in every space. Seek the middle, not too fast, not too slow. Find your center, let your spirit glow. In the dawn's light, everything's new. In the twilight, dreams come through. Listen closely to the silent cue. The middle path is calling you. Seek the middle, not too high, not too low. Find your center, let your spirit glow. In the dawn's light, everything's new. In the twilight, dreams come through. Listen closely to the silent cue. The middle path is calling you. In the dawn's light, everything's new. In the twilight, dreams come through. Listen closely to the silent cue.